Hello everyone, I am the Enforcer, and welcome to the breaking news. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and support us on Patreon, link in the description below. Today we've gotten breaking news today as the United States of America, through the office of the President, has issued a direct ultimate threat to the Islamic Republic of Iran that any further hostile actions from the many Houthis will be equated as a direct hostile action by the Islamic Republic of Iran directly. We have been able to see that the United States of America is already conducting reconnaissance and intelligence gathering missions within the Persian Gulf, and we've also been able to see that a direct statement by Khamenei today is once again showing us that the Islamic Republic of Iran is dispelling any attempts at diplomatic dialogue and is once again insisting on creating a weapon of mass destruction. Meanwhile, on the other area of the Middle East, we've been able to see that Syria and Lebanon are going to blows as a full-out conflict has now evolved in between the two nations and may as well be considered a state of war. Meanwhile, we've also been able to hear major news elsewhere, as in Washington, D.C., or largely aboard Air Force One, bound for Washington, D.C. from Florida. We were able to hear that the President of the United States stated that he will be engaging in a phone call with Vladimir Putin tomorrow. Shockingly enough, no major diplomatic development was seen with the Russian Federation as of today, which the President had told many American citizens to anticipate a major diplomatic development in regards to the Ukraine war by Monday. Instead, we are now being told that a phone call on Tuesday will finally sort things out, and even then, it seems somewhat unpredictable and it doesn't seem likely. Meanwhile, we've also been able to hear inside of Ukraine that the state of Ukraine has had the foreign minister once again lay out Ukraine's terms for a peace negotiation, once again showing that a ceasefire has to be agreed upon before any terms are actually agreed to by either party at all at this point. France has also stated that they'll be providing more Mirage 2000s to the state of Ukraine, and Lithuania and Poland have concluded a joint investigation into a major market fire in Vilnius, the capital of Latvia, and have claimed that a Russian mercenary, or largely a Russian agent, set the market on fire last year. We have absolutely major news coming out from practically every single region of the Middle East and Europe today, and moving on into our most major and important news, we have been able to see that the Houthis, or largely the Islamic Republic of Iran, have been directly threatened by the office of the President of the United States. Largely to summarize the tweet right here that we were able to see, this is a statement from the President of the United States. Every shot fired by the Houthis will be looked upon from this point forward as being a shot fired from the weapons and leadership of Iran, and Iran will be held responsible and suffer the consequences, and those consequences will be dire. Largely a very direct and imminent threat to the Islamic Republic of Iran's government, we've been able to see the President of the United States of America has made a fairly firm action in associating the Houthis with the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that assumption, or largely correlation, is not that far-fetched, as the Yemeni Houthis are funded, supported, and largely founded by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is in a direct extension of the official Iranian government. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been found in multiple areas of the Middle East, supporting and operating pro-Iranian and anti-American and anti-Israeli operations throughout the entirety of the peninsula. The Yemeni Houthis are one of those groups, but Hezbollah and Hamas also have a great deal of financial and arms connections to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and not only that, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, which largely handles these organizations and their operations within the region. With this in mind, it does appear that the United States is beginning to move forward with treating Iranian proxies as direct Iranian actors themselves, instead of a kind of a middle ground or a neutral zone where there could be some sort of culpable deniability that's created to where they are largely funded and supported by Iran, but the directed connection is never made. It most likely will be seen that we will start to take possible hostile action, if the threat is to be taken as true, against the Islamic Republic of Iran here within the next few days and weeks, especially if hostile action by the Yemeni Houthis continues within the region, as we do understand that U.S. CENTCOM today has stated that there are going to be longer-lasting naval and air operations around the area of western Yemen, and we've also been able to see that apparently airstrikes are still continuing on into today, although we do not have any exact information or news about that on the ground. We were able to see, however, that the United States of America appears to already be conducting some form of reconnaissance flights around Bushehr, where there are operational nuclear reactors inside of the Islamic Republic of Iran. These are the nuclear reactors at the Bushehr nuclear power plant. The MQ-4 may be conducting surveillance or reconnaissance on the city of Bushehr and possibly even Shiraz as well, but it does appear that the United States Navy is starting to conduct more reconnaissance gathering missions directly against the Islamic Republic of Iran, possibly for some form of armed action that may occur weeks into the future. Whenever we start to see reconnaissance or intelligence gathering operations begin, we can largely assume that U.S. operations against a foreign actor would largely be imminent at that point. The United States largely conducts a reconnaissance or intelligence gathering operation as their first step in any kind of a scenario. Once they get the enough reconnaissance and intelligence back to the Department of Defense, or specifically the branches involved, or really U.S. CENTCOM, which is in charge of this region, will start to draw up any kind of battle plans and contingency plans, or they will pull from pre-existing battle plans that have already been made for hypothetical scenarios such as these. Then they will start to augment or tailor that a little bit to the actual scenario and forces that would be involved, and then they execute the plan. And then from there, we see that the rest of the planning or largely execution at that point unfolds. But still, that seems to be one of the first steps that we're seeing right now that is showing that U.S. military action against the Islamic Republic of Iran directly may be happening some point in the future. Meanwhile, we've also been able to hear inside the Islamic Republic of Iran that Khamenei, who is the supreme leader of Iran, largely their version of a dictator, has stated that there will be no talks with the United States and Iran will pursue nuclear weapons if it chooses, and sanctions simply will not work. We have already been able to see in the past that the Islamic Republic of Iran is not open to negotiating with the United States of America or any other Western allies in the denuclearization of their country. They've made it wildly clear that they are pursuing a weapon of mass destruction, and the research and development of that is still ongoing in its processes right now. In the course of this clip, which we're not exactly sure if we can or cannot show, I have seen the entirety of it before we started recording, the Khamenei, or the Iranian leader, largely stated that the President of the United States has lied, and there has been absolutely no diplomatic developments in between the Islamic Republic of Iran and that of the United States. He also stated that the Islamic Republic of Iran has absolutely no wishes to have any kind of diplomatic relationship with Israel or the United States, and that the United States has absolutely no grounds or ability or leverage, for that matter, to be able to stop the Iranians from producing a nuclear weapon. And they will continue to pursue a nuclear weapon as long as they are able to, and also reiterated that sanctions will not provide any significant damage to the current existing state of the Islamic Republic of Iran and will not curtail their abilities to be able to produce a weapon of mass destruction, such as a nuclear weapon. It's becoming incredibly clear that the Islamic Republic of Iran does not have a diplomatic bone in its body, much like the Russian Federation, and that they will largely have to be dealt with swiftly and aggressively to be able to ensure that they are not able to produce or field a usable nuclear weapon. Meanwhile, outside of Iran, we have been able to see inside of Lebanon and Syria, it appears that things are getting a little bit spicier. And of course, they were getting very spicy yesterday. As many people may know, Hezbollah actually crossed the border near to the city of Homs, captured and executed 3 Syrian interim government soldiers. This created a major skirmish in between the two sides as the Jilani government, or the interim government as it's been called, began to fire back against the Lebanese yesterday, and we've been able to see that as of today, the Lebanese army is now being mobilized and heading to the border, which we can see in this clip right here. We were also able to get an additional statement from the Lebanese armed forces, or largely the President of Lebanon himself, about the actions of the Lebanese armed forces, as it appears that the President of Lebanon, otherwise known as Kingpin in the Spider-Man movies, but we'll call him Joseph Aoun, or Joseph Aoun, announced that he has ordered the Lebanese army to start firing at the Syrian army forces that are shooting across the border into Lebanon. Kingpin then stated, "This can't continue. We won't allow it. I've ordered the army to return fire." Oddly enough, they can return fire against the Syrians, but for some reason they just can never fight Hezbollah. They just don't have enough bones to, in their body to do that sort of a thing. But nevertheless, it is great to see that Kingpin here was able to make that kind of an announcement, and it appears that the armed forces of Kingpin will now be engaging the Syrians across the border. We were able to see that some Syrian armed forces have visibly been seen inside of Lebanon, for example in this clip here, which will only show a small snippet of. We're going to cut the clip right there, but largely this video clip does show that the Syrian interim army has actually crossed the border into Lebanon, causing a significant amount of damage, specifically within that area, and it does appear that they are beginning to push into Lebanon to deal with Hezbollah forces, which largely run the country and are almost absolutely out of control. We can also see by the actions of the Lebanese government that the Lebanese government is well in the pocket of Hezbollah, and is not actually the one running the country, it more so is Hezbollah. We have seen that each and every single time that the Israelis have engaged Hezbollah forces, the president of Lebanon has been completely idle, has hardly said anything, and not only that, the Lebanese army has been completely non-existent in the fight to actually knock out Hezbollah forces within southern Lebanon. But when we see that the Syrians attack Hezbollah, then the Lebanese army can actually come to the aid of Hezbollah and stop them from being hit very badly by the Syrian interim government, which is once again showing us that the ties in between the two are far deeper than could be imagined, and the state of Lebanon may as well be recognized as an Iranian proxy state at this point due to their heavy governmental involvement with Hezbollah and Hezbollah's very deep and storied connections to the Islamic Republic of Iran. We've also been able to hear inside of Damascus that it appears that deep storied ties are not exactly ending with Lebanon and Iran, they're also apparently now extending into Syria and Russia, as we've been able to hear today that the interim president, Ahmed al-Sharaz, aim to preserve deep strategic relations with Russia suggests that Russian officials retain room to influence Sharaz's decision-making, especially through economic and diplomatic incentives. Currently, the Syrian Arab Republic, or the Syrian interim government, which is really what's being called at this point, looks something like this. The little areas in red are rebel-controlled. The areas in this brownish color are controlled by the Harir Tahrir al-Sham. The areas in this slightly brownish red color are largely run by the Druze within the south. This area, we don't even know who's running it. This little area in light blue is the Atanf garrison. The areas in somewhat of a straw yellow, if we want to call it that, they are being run by the Turks, and then the area in purple is being run by the Kurds, or largely the Syrian Democratic Forces. This is the current situation that we're seeing inside of Syria right now, and I believe that the destabilization of the region and practically the beginning of a second civil war has largely led Jelani and the interim government to start aligning themselves with the Russian Federation again, because much like Assad, they may attempt to try and use the Russian Federation's armed forces as a way to stabilize their government, even if it means that they're completely abandoning any hopes of actually creating a prosperous Syria. All they are looking for at this point is a Syria where they will be in charge and they will be in power. So it does appear that we're now seeing that the Syrian interim government is making a clear and concerted effort to start moving back in the direction of the Russian Federation, most likely for some sort of security, guarantees, or protections that the Russians might be able to provide, although they weren't there to provide that in the final hours of the Assad regime. Moving on out of Syria, however, and on into the rest of the world, we have been able to hear some interesting diplomatic developments in between the United States and Russia over the topic of the Ukraine war, as we've been able to hear that the President of the United States has directly stated that he'll be speaking with Putin on a phone call tomorrow, on Tuesday. He said, maybe we can, or maybe we can end the war in Ukraine. Now, I want to remind many people that we were supposed to be hearing of a major diplomatic development today, and apparently the major diplomatic development that we were supposed to be hearing today is that the Russians were going to agree to the ceasefire. Instead, the President of the United States has come out on Monday and stated that it appears that once again the Russians are not willing to agree to a ceasefire, and it now appears that the President of the United States is throwing himself into the ring again as a last-ditch attempt to see if Putin would actually agree to a ceasefire, or to pretty much start back at square one and then start the delegation again that is currently in Russia, led by Witkoff, to see if the war could actually end. It appears that the President of the United States' faith in ending the war in Ukraine is incredibly weak, as it does appear that the Russian Federation is not willing to relent on anything, and they are looking for a total victory to be achieved before the war even ends, meaning that this is largely being viewed as an unconditional surrender if the United States or Ukraine agree to Russia's terms. The Ukrainian foreign minister has made it wildly clear that Ukraine will not be accepting any of this at all, especially without getting into peace negotiations. They will not be accepting this as preconditions to a ceasefire. According to the foreign minister Sibaha, he stated that Ukraine does not recognize the loss of land and will also refuse to prescribe restrictions for its armed forces and refusal to join NATO and the EU in the peace agreement. That also means that they're not willing to look for that in terms prerequisite to a ceasefire, according to the foreign minister. It's becoming wildly clear at this point that the Russian Federation has no actual hope or attempt at wanting to create an actual ceasefire or a peace inside of Ukraine. Ukraine agreed with the United States that they would present a ceasefire proposal proposal without preconditions, meaning that the Ukrainians are not asking for a single thing from the Russians to end the war. They will simply stop the fighting here and get into the peace negotiations instantly. On the other hand, the Russians have accepted such a gracious and generous offer and have spit in the face of Ukraine and the United States by making it incredibly clear that they are going to operate like a spoiled brat, and unless if they're able to achieve all of the terms that they want in the war and win the war before they even get into a peace negotiation that is supposed to end the war, they're not willing to get into a peace at all. The 1 week period that the peace negotiations have been going on, the war has continued. And if the Russians had accepted this non-preconditional ceasefire, meaning that neither side has to meet any terms of the other, they just stop fighting for the sake of stopping the fighting, then this conflict would have been over a week ago. And we can already see that the Russian Federation is stalling for time and continuing to make it very clear that they are not looking for a peace inside of Ukraine, no matter how much the United States and its diplomatic efforts may attempt to bring a peace to the region. Meanwhile, France is still working off of the mindset that there will not be a peace in Ukraine and has stated that there will be more Mirage 2000s on the way, and they will continue to directly supply Mirage 2000s directly from within the French government's supply inside of the French Air Force. And we've also been able to hear some wildly unfortunate news that apparently, according to the Prime Minister of Poland, Donald Tusk, and also due to a Lithuanian investigation as well by the Lithuanian prosecutor's office, they have confirmed the suspicions that that the Russians were responsible for setting fires to shopping centers in Vilnius and Warsaw, and they are a member of the Russian Secret Services, or otherwise known as the FSB. The Prime Minister of Poland has made it very clear that this is the nature of the Russian state, is to largely act like a terrorist state, as it does appear that there was a specific actor involved in both of the attacks that was paid approximately 10,000 euros by the Russian Federation to be involved in the arson attacks against the major markets of Warsaw and Vilnius. Once again, making it incredibly clear that the Russian Federation largely acts as a terrorist state and not one of a goodwill actor or a legitimate nation, much like the United States of America. And so with that, that is all of the major breaking news that we have today. I have to thank each and every one of y'all once again for watching. I hope y'all have enjoyed this greatly. And if you made it to this point in the video, please make sure to put Vilnius in the comment section below. That is the capital of Lithuania, which I'll move that little marker out of the way. It is spelled Vilnius. Put that in the comment section below to let us know that you made it to the end of this video. But a massive thanks to everyone who has gotten here so far. We are entirely honored and appreciative to know that we are y'all's breaking news source every single day, and we hope that y'all been able to enjoy our news delivery today and hear most of the important world news that's going on right now. If you really did enjoy, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you really enjoyed it and you would like to help these projects to be financially possible, or our work to be financially possible, please make sure to support us on Patreon. The link is in the description below, and we have to give a massive shout out, a huge thanks to everyone who is on Patreon right now and supporting this channel. Y'all help us to be able to make this financially possible, so that way we can do this as our full-time job and be able to gather the news, analyze it, and not only that, put out daily streams and videos on it to keep everyone informed on what's going on in the world. But with that, a huge thanks to all of y'all once again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.